Good morning. So today and for a bit of tomorrow, we are going to talk about designing for the web, which has a subtitle, which is Information Architecture and Visual Design. And the idea behind these classes is that now you know, let's say you know how to develop a web application from a technical perspective. So we thought to add 3 hours of best practices, rule of thumbs, some processes to design a web application, not only from the technical perspective, for which the rest of the course was about, but also from the, let's say, usability, friendliness perspective, so that you don't end up in creating something that is technically perfect, is very efficient, very performative, but nobody can use it except yourself. So we try to synthesize in these 3 hours these ideas, and indeed the goal is a mix of introducing concepts like information architecture and talking about things like text, colors, layout, etc., but also understanding some design guidelines and some practical perspective in how to translate this information, this concept into also CSS code and Bootstrap implication for Bootstrap, etc. So with a link to what you already have done. How many of you? So one thing about my lectures is that I ask questions. So I hope you are ready to answer questions. So how many of you have ever heard about information architecture? Okay. Do you know what is text, layout, and colors? Raise your hand. Okay, so you are active. Okay. So let's start from information architecture. So information architecture that's the definition, is the structural design of shared information environment, and it's pretty vague as a definition. But the idea of information architecture is that you want to put together organization of content, labeling, search, and navigation in a way that are efficient and effective within website applications, in general application, but especially web applications. And the idea behind information architecture is that you do things to make information findable and understandable. So the full point of information architecture is to make this information findable and understandable. So you organize information around your application to make them again, findable and understandable. So what is information? Information is not data, and information is not knowledge. As these slides say, data is facts, figures, numbers. Like in a database, you have data encoded in a database, you can query them, and you can get specific answer to very specific question according to the data that you have in the database. And that's one end. The other end of the spectrum is knowledge. Knowledge here is defined like stuff in people's head, which can or cannot be deeply linked with data. Maybe you misremember something, but it's part of your knowledge. And your knowledge is also part not only about data, but also part of your experience, about the context in which you are, in which you live, your family, etc. So knowledge manager, the one that manages knowledge, develop tools, processes, and incentive to share, to help people sharing this knowledge that they have. That again can be linked to data or could be also more than data. Again, context and so on. And information is the middle. And so when we talk about information architecture, we talk about architecting, organizing the information, not organizing the data, not organizing the knowledge. So as a way to organize the information, there is no single right answer. If you do a query which is correct in a database, you get always, if the data doesn't change, the same data, the same results, the same answer. In information, you often doesn't have a single truth, a single answer. There could be multiple ways to represent and share this information. Also, according to where this information is hosted, is in a website, is in a Word document, is in a PDF, it's decoded in images, and so on. And part of information are those that you also find in the web that are the metadata, which are terms, concepts used to describe and represent content object. Again, documents, people, processes, which ultimately also are data. So it's data about data. And I was saying before, it's something in the middle and includes other things than our data, and these other things are typically these three. Information architecture has to do with users, has to do with content, and has to do with context. So users. When you design a web application system and you think about the architecture, you have to think who is using your system and how they're using and what information they're looking for. So let's say that you want to create a web application to introduce university courses, to explain that this course has a topic and a program and there's a number of credits, etc. So if you describe it to other university students like you, how would you describe it? Which are the elements you would present? Like imagine to put it in a Word file. So it will have like title, which is the title of this course. Introduction to application. Then what you put? The title. You want to promote this course or discourage people to attend this course, okay, I'll tell you the course, the title, and that's it. I'm not giving you any other information. Or you will give other information. A description of the course, okay, and then? Who's hosting the course? Yeah, the professor. And then?
How is it scheduled? Meaning laboratories, lessons.
Okay, so the organization of the course, and how do you describe the organization of the course in terms of hours or credits? Or both? Both. So if you say the course has 6 credits, of which 8 credits in this case, which 6 lecture and exercise and 2 labs. Okay. And if I say this course has 8 credits, do you understand what it means? Right? More or less? Good. Now, if I have to present this same course to a middle school student, can I talk about credits? No. What should I say instead of credits, for instance? Hours. So it's 8 credits, so it means you have 60 hours of exercise and lectures and 20 of labs, more or less. So the same data, 6 credits for a course, the same kind of information, but it depends on who is using the system. If I'm creating it for prospective university students, I can say about credits because you all know what is a credit. If I'm talking about to students, middle school students, I cannot talk about credits because they have no idea of what is a credit. And similar description can be changed according. So this is an element of information architecture. Who is the people you are going to do something for because it's usually different. And this is a simple example. Imagine you have to talk about medical stuff to doctors or to patients. You don't use the same terms, you don't use the same way of expressing things, because the knowledge that these people have is very different. Then information architecture is about content, which of course means documents, links. Do you put a video there? Do you put an image? So choices, how to present the information that they have. And then the context. Because all digital systems are technological, societal systems. So they exist within a particular business, within a particular context, country, culture, etc. So if we say, for instance, talk about courses to a student from Canada or United States, country that we do a 80-hour course, that would be probably a very large, with 150 people enrolled, that would be a very large course for them. Vice versa, here is pretty normal to have 6 or 8 credit courses with this number of people or even more. So what's normal, what's typical in a place is totally different from another, and you have to architect your information, design your content and your website, keeping in mind this difference so that people can understand according to their context, culture, etc., etc. So these 3 are the elements to keep in mind: users, context, and content in architecture and information. So as I was saying, information architecture is focused on making information findable and understandable, because we often understand things in relation to something else, and this go back to user, context, and concept. And introduce one concept that is one of similarity. If you look at buildings, but if you look at the website, most banks, universities, etc. are pretty similar as they are organized, and most university website, most bank application are organized in a similar way. Why they are organizing the same services in a similar way and don't innovate more and do something totally different to you? Why Politecnico website is in the sort of similar to Politecnico di Milano or University of Turin website?
They have the same kind of information to deal with, so same context.
Similar context, similar kind of information, but why presenting in a similar way?
So that when you go to different websites, it's already familiar to you and easier to find information.
Yes, so that it's familiar for you. So of course it's easier because it's the same context, but it's familiar to you. So one thing we are, as human beings, very good at is identifying patterns, even when patterns does not exist, but that's also help with applications. So if you see, I don't know if you know the name, probably at this point of the course, yes. If you see, how do you call the menu that you open with 3, which is depicted with 3 lines? Okay, so you know. So if you see an hamburger menu, if you see 3 lines on a mobile application, do you know what is? It's an hamburger menu, and how do you know what is? Did anyone told you that you have to press here, you see the menu?
By experience.
By experience. But you've seen once, twice, 3, again, familiarity, and then you find it after. So this is, again, if you look around, you can notice some of these things, but also when you develop something, you can rely on this familiarity to build things. And one key criteria to keep in mind in developing web application, but in general application, is the title of this book. This is an actual book, which talks about web applications, by the way, which is Don't Make Me Think. If I look at the web page, I ideally should immediately know where to click, where to open, when to swipe what to do, without saying, oh, wait, I should click there, or I should click here, or why this is of this color, which is different from the other. I shouldn't, in a way, think on what I want to do on the website. I should be able to do it as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. This is an extreme, like not thinking at all, but it's, if you have to remind one sentence, remind don't make me think. If I open your web application, whatever it is, I should, and you told me, go there and find this information, I should be immediately able to do it without asking, wait, how can I do it? In the moment in which I ask, how can I do it, is not, it's failing this concept. And this book is very short, and it's called Talk About Web Usability, and it has, you know, here there's a picture, and here there is quite a content, where should I start, why they call it whatever they call it, and this picture is clickable or not, so there is, should I click it, is clickable, can I click on it or not? And these are all things that we think, maybe in a millisecond, but still we think and we realize when we look on a website and decide how to proceed from that, or close the tab and open a new website if we don't see the information at glance. And one way to depict and create the information architectures, saying the basics, are sitemaps. So sitemaps show, sitemaps, this is an example of sitemap. So sitemaps take the information you have on your website, the content, and of course the bigger the website, the web application, the more complicated it is to create a sitemap, and try to aggregate them according to some criteria. They could be similar concepts, there could be others, and lay out in a map like this. And this is something in designing web application that you should do before starting to implement. My web application is about university, is about travel, is about X, which information I want to talk about. I want to talk about this, I want to talk about that, I have this feature, that feature, and how do I lay out the architecture about this. And sitemaps are, you know, you can navigate, and one thing you can notice is that you can always go from one of this page to another one. There is no dead end. So from the index, you can always go to one of these pages, and then from one of these pages, you can always go back to the index or to the search results. And from the search result, you reach one of these pages. And then you don't know what is written in the tours page. And maybe having a tours page and a budget tours and a family tours and a nightlife tours could be debatable. Why should I have 4 pages at the same level of hierarchy instead of having one, split in others? But still, these show the relationship. So allow you to say, okay, these 4 pages should be all here at the same level, or these pages should be sub pages, sub pages of the tours pages, etc., etc., etc. So allow you to reflect on how the information is organized within the application. So sitemaps, are a way to represent information, but then you have to concretize the sitemap in how actually people navigate, use this information, and then the next logical step is to talk about navigation. So navigation is how people experience that information architecture. Is all these pages in a top navbar? It's a left sidebar? How did it put this information? The information is there. How do we depict it so that people can navigate? Navigations, if you start from a sitemap, in doing a navigation system, you should have an exact map with the sitemap. So a sitemap with 4 top-level sections should produce a navbar with the same 4 items with the same label. And a property of every navigation system is that in a web application, you should be able to answer these three questions immediately, which are where I am, where I can go, and how to get back. So if you look at a web page, you should know where in the application you are, not just the title of the page, but just where you are, what are the information, how you reach that page, and where can you go from there, options, and how to go back in a previous page in another system. And how do you answer typically in a web application these three questions? One, highlighting the active page. When you see a nav bar with a different color of the active page, that's the way to answer where I am. The full nav bar, answer the second in a navigation system, and breadcrumbs or backlinks answer the third. How can I get back from there? One level top. And poor navigation is the first reason people abandon a website. Because they expect structure to be self-evident. People don't read on the web. They scan the page. They skim the page. So you can write a lot, but nobody's going to read all of what you wrote. So they skim the page. So identify again pattern, familiar structures, etc. So if the structure navigation is self-evident, you will have a first hook to keep people in the application. If it's not, they will likely go to some similar competitor website as well. And when you create a navigation and page title, be sure that the labels that you put in navigation corresponds to the title of the page. So if you have a link called your service and the page that is called what we do, even if conceptually are the same thing, that creates doubts on, again, makes me think I am on the right page, or there will be another page called services, maybe with a list of services. So if you want exactly to be in our service page, and then you should use the same title. What we're going to do, well, today and tomorrow is like this. I'm going to present you some concept and then some hook to rule of thumb to apply in some question here and there. And as we proceed, the more concrete will be, but just navigation. But just more or less like this. And there are 6 navigation patterns mainly in the website. Let me remove the slides. Which are the main navigation patterns on the website from your experience? There are 6 main navigation patterns on the website, on any website. At least 3.
Navbar.
The navbar, the top navbar is one.
Sidebar.
The sidebar.
Footer?
The bottom navbar, bottom navigation. Could be the footer. The footer could also be copyright, and that's it. It's not necessarily a navigation, but yes, could be the bottom navigation. Done.
Buttons and links.
Buttons and links are not part of the navigation, is how you navigate. But it's not a part of the navigation. Like in the navbar, you have buttons and links, but the navbar is the navigation element.
No, I mean, in the main concept, you might have go back to main page.
To what?
Go back to main page or something like that.
Oh, yeah, but that's, again, a link. It's not a navigation element. At the tree. The main body is not part of the navigation, it's the main body. We're talking just about navigation. That's the sidebar that we already mentioned, yes, and the hamburger menu. I don't know who said that, yes.
I'm not sure if it counts, but content recommendations, such as slideshows and such.
No, it's not navigation, it's content,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, mostly, you just miss 2. So top navbar, the sidebar, the breadcrumbs. Do you know what is a breadcrumb? What is a breadcrumb? Is when you have on the top of some pages in some web page, you have home page, arrow or a sign, and then the category, and then the page you are in. And if you click on the category, you go back on one, and if you click on home, you go back on the home. So it's the path that brings you to that page within the information architecture. Some websites still have, especially blog, have breadcrumbs or similar things to navigate from the post to the category to the home page. So that's part of navigation. Tabs. If you are on the same content, the same page, you have tabs to switch from one to another. The bottom bar, especially on mobile, and the hamburger menu. And here as well, there are some, again, rules of thumb. So top navbar, best for flat structure with 5-8 top level section. So in a navbar, in the top, you should have 5 to 8 buttons, links, ideally. No more than 8. Sidebar, it's a sidebar, it could be long as you want, allow long list. The breadcrumb, we mention it, is never alone, is always with some kind of navbar sidebar. The tabs are for switching between views of a single page. I have the content in a format and the same content in another format. Or I am in a page, our services, and we have an introduction and a tab that lists our services in a different way. The bottom bar, as we said before, suggests your maximum 5 items with icon plus labels for clarity, and then the hamburger menu that hides the top navigation on mobile system mostly. With the problem, the hamburger menu has a cons, that is, it reduces discoverability because you don't see what's in the navbar when the hamburger menu is closed. So how to choose the right pattern? Well, again, if you have the sitemap, your information architecture done, if you have 2 levels, the main level and a category and a subcategories, the top navbar is alone. If you have 3 levels, you typically have the navbar plus drop down in the navbar, or the navbar plus breadcrumb. And if you have 4 or more levels, again, category, subcategory, subcategory of the subcategory, and so on, you typically have the sidebar with sections that are collapsible and optionally breadcrumb. And here there are some, again, suggestions. Never use tabs and a top navbar to represent the same level of hierarchy, the same level of organization information. It's either one or the other, and typically it's better the navbar if you have to represent non-view that are not within the same page. Always highlight the current location in some way. Highlight the button, the link in the navbar, breadcrumbs, etc. And remember the consistency, most of the time, matters more than cleverness. So try to be consistent in your application. If you do one thing in one page, then do the same thing in other pages, just not change layout, colors, way of identifying things. And here there are example navigation patterns. So the Bootstrap website has how many things in the top navbar? No? Try again? 5. Because the logo is actually a link that brings to the home page. So it's like writing home. So there are 5. We said 5 to 8, so we're good. GitHub has tabs. These are tabs. You are within the same repository, the same page, and you can have the view on code, the view on issue, the view on pull request, etc. So these are tabs. And the documentation of Visual Studio Code has a sidebar with collapsible sidebar. So you can see more information as a deep hierarchy. How many elements are in the top navigation? well, more than 10 anyway, no? More than 5 to 8, right? Do we agree that are more than 5 to 8? So this is a violation of what he already told you? Yeah, in theory, yes. If I tell you that in practice is fine, why in practice is fine?
Because the user knows how to use it. He
But
can understand
how to use it, who knows? Don't assume that people knows, maybe they don't.
Maybe in this case, like all the text things in the middle are kind of like in the same level. So you only need to consider either you click the logo, one of the text, or the search, or the cart, or whatever. So it's like only 4 things to think about.
Almost.
I think thinking about the brand itself, Apple, it's known to be quite simple and friendly for even maybe older people. So if they visit the website and look for a specific product, they can easily find it because it is categorized in a different way.
Almost. Also you.
So the rest of the from what I can see, the rest of the website is empty. So your eye just sees the top nav bar, so you're not overwhelmed with where to look.
Almost again. Remember this. User content context. So this website, so almost, this website is product-centric website. The main goal of this is to showcase products. If you scroll down, if you go on any of this page, you see images, information about single products or family of products, okay? If they followed the rules, they would have said, consider that when you click something, it opens like a mega menu with other links, etc. So there is deep hierarchy here. If they follow the rules, they should have had sidebar with section. Now, in a website which is focused on product and focused on selling products like this, in a way that is very much commercial, it's not an e-commerce, it's just a show for products. Having a sidebar here would have significantly reduced the space available for the product and cluttered the information, making things less clean, less precise, and less simple in a way. So again, as I said before, information architecture, there is not one right answer. There are guidelines, there are rules of thumb, but then there is the context that matter. So in this context, where the website is just made to showcase products, having a sidebar would have been worse than having 10 elements, 12 elements on the top navbar. So in this case, the best choice between the two is actually the top navbar. That's why at the beginning I said users, concept, and context, because the three together always should go together. Okay, so there are again guidelines, indications, but they don't know the context, they don't know the people, they don't know what you are doing, so you have to consider what you are doing for whom, and then adapt those to pick the best choice that you can. Okay? Now we talk about information and architecture, which is perfectly good, but again, if we think about people will not come to your website or application because they're curious about the information structure that you put on. If you use a sidebar or top bar, that's irrelevant. They will come to your application with a goal. They open the website to do something. Whatever is the something, whatever is good or bad, significant or not, but still, they will open it with a goal, with a task in mind. Again, if I visit a bank website, I want to check my balance, I want to do things, not just say, oh, look how many pages there are here, oh, interesting. I just want to go there to look for some information or to do some action. So when, again, designing, we move up a step further. When we design a website, thinking about where the content live, how the navbar is structured, etc., is important, but comes after people. Again, people, content, and context. Not only who are your user, which impact the content, the information, etc., but also what they are trying to accomplish on my web application, on my website. So think about, when you're creating something, think about, okay, if I want to do X, how difficult, how long the path in my web application to do X is. And if it's very difficult, that's a sign that something was not designed properly. Maybe the information is there, but it's difficult to find because you have to click 11 times. So both matter. Good information architecture without a good task flow still produce a frustrating experience. And to summarize, the information architecture describes what is on the page and how it's organized, and the user flow is the sequence of pages and action that a person visiting your application takes to reach their own goal in that moment, in their context. And I can make an example about something really difficult. So you're in bachelor degree for now, but after, just to see about the user flow, on the Politecnico website, try to find the dates of the discussion of the master degree in computer engineer. Should be pretty important as information, the date in which I should discuss my thesis and the end of master degree. Try to find it on the website of Politecnico. If you are able to do it without searching, just navigating the website. If you find it in less than 5 minutes, let me know. The dates of the next session for the master degree discussion. Not proclamation, discussion. And in that case, Politecnico should have designed a better user flow for that specific part and for many. So when designing the user flow, try to design first what is typically called the happy path. The happy path is the sequence of steps a person follows to complete their goal, their task, without errors or interruptions. So considering that everything will go well, this is the path you have to take, the ideal scenario. So design the happy path first, and then edge cases, errors, the server that's not replying, 4 of 4 pages come after. So here's an example. Imagine you want to enroll in a single university course, and you can. So you start from the pages with all the courses, you search the course, you view the detail, you check the prerequisite to understand if you can enroll, then you enroll, and then you receive confirmation. 5 steps. Probably 5 pages or less than 5 pages. Maybe the details and the prerequisite could be in the same page. There is no dead end. There are no ambiguous label. And most important, if the action is enrolling in a single university, you don't stop at enroll. Why you don't stop at enroll? Yeah, you have to, exactly, you have to have confirmation, you have to complete. So my task is enrolling, and my task is completed when I can say, okay, done. And done is receive confirmation or receive error in case not of an happy path. Another thing to consider is that people rarely enter a web application through the home page. They arrive typically through search result, links, etc. So every page again must be self-orienting. You don't need to go through the web page to home page to understand what's the website about and what I'm talking, what I'm reading, where I am, etc. And each page also should make the next step obvious, like in the case of enrolling and confirmation. So if I have a confirmation page, then after, in that page, I should have what's the next step? And the next step could be, if it's a booking page, view your booking, or book another, or go to the home page. But it should be the next step obvious. It's not just done, congratulations. And now, what I should do? Close the tab, I don't close the tab, give always a sense of done in every page that you have that ends a process of flow. Now, how would you do all these things, like sitemap, navigation, the user flow, etc.? How do you design a web application? So right now, you started from the browser, starting from Visual Studio Code and start developing code, which is fine to learn, but if you have to take a step back and say, okay, I want to design the best web application for X, whatever X has, you don't typically start from the browser. You start from sketching the structure first, and then building the HTML, CSS, Jinja template, Flask, Python, etc., etc. And designing of application, typically, that's a very short version of this. You can consider 3 levels of fidelity in designing an application. There is the low fidelity, the medium fidelity, and the high fidelity. The low fidelity is sketching on paper. Pick a piece of paper or a tablet, a pen, and draw squares. Here it's the navbar, here is the sidebar, here there's buttons, etc. It's fast. If you make a mistake, it's just 3 seconds to throw it away and start again. And it's good for layout and flow decision, and it's quick. The medium fidelity is the wireframe. So grayscale, again, no colors, but you have grayscale. Digital mockup with structure, hierarchy, positioning of the elements which are precise and closer to the one of the real, the final web application, and the space is all well done, etc. And then you have the high fidelity, which is the interactive prototype that could also be done in code, which is again an interactive mockup that simulates the real user flow before more than a line of code is written, before the actual application is done, developed, and deployed. And each stage answer a different question. So in the sketch phase, you ask yourself what goes on this page and how it's arranged. There's a picture, there's not a picture, there's a sidebar, the top bar, the nav bar, blah, blah, blah. All these things. General layout. The wireframe is, does the structure work for the task of the users when we are just more precise in spacing, alignment, etc. And interactive prototype is, does the flow work well end to end, and you have colors, so the colors work well, etc. The idea of all of this is that discovering a problem in the sketching on paper takes 2 minutes to fix, because it's done with a pen and your drawing ability, whatever they are. Discovering it in HTML, CSS, Python, Flask, etc. may take longer than 2 minutes. So you want to identify problem as soon as possible so that you avoid them. The biggest one, at least, you can avoid them. And here there is an example, for instance, from another course. It's a mobile, but it's fitted the slides. So the first one on the top is a paper prototype. It's a sketch on paper. It shows that you have this exam, there is a title of a task, there is a description, there are buttons, all made on paper. Time for realizing that, 1 minute, probably. And you can understand how things are, how things work, etc. And on the other end, you have the high fidelity, the interactive mockup with colors, etc. You see the layout is refined, but also there are changes, like this back here is missing. The add a task, I don't know where it was, but here is here. Here there was navigation next and previous, and here is missing. So there are changes done, recognizing error in one stage and bringing it to another one. So how to do this? If you have two, with paper and pencil, it's easy. Paper, pencil, either digital or not. If you want to do wireframe or interactive prototype, you can use Figma, which is also free for student education. Balsamiq is another tool, etc. And for this course and also for your midterm assignment, either a paper sketch or a Figma wireframe should be good if you have to deliver the pages before implementing them, or together with the pages implementing them. Just again, suggestions. To design those things, we need to talk about visual design, which is the main way in which we recognize things. And in visual design, we talk about 3 ideas. One is guiding, one is spacing, and one is messaging. Guiding means conveying structure, the importance, the relationship. Pacing is drawing people in the application, orienting them, showing where to go, etc. What we discussed for up to now. And messaging is expressing your messaging, your style, your meaning in your content. Give your personal touch to the content. And in visual design also we would like to make everything look aesthetically beautiful, but that's not the goal. Indeed, visual design is different from art and artistic skill. Artistic skill can help, but they're not necessarily not sufficient. Visual design is highly practical, as an activity. Arts could also be not practical at all. Real design skills take years to master, so it's not reasonable that in 1 hour we cover of them. But again, guidelines, rule of thumbs are a good and easy way to start, and we are going to see some of them now. So look at this page. What was this page about? Let me try again for a few seconds. Just have a look at this text. What was this text talking of? No idea. Why no idea? It's all together. This is better. So, these are the basics. You have to write a text like this. If you put it like this, at a glance, you will not understand what it is about. If you add one element of visual design, which is white space, it's already better. You see that there are 4 sentences at least, 4 parts of it, just adding space. If you add some hierarchy, what this text is about in 5 seconds? What's this text about in 5 seconds? Text, layout, and colors, because they are the main things that arrange. So, hierarchy, white space, and alignment. So, what this text is about? It's about text in terms of white space, font, and alignment, and then layout and colors. It's the same content with a few things to consider. And these few things are the key ingredients of visual design: text and typography, layout and colors. And for text, The three things to consider are white space, fonts, and alignment. For layouts, we will talk about grids, and colors, we will talk about palettes between today and tomorrow. So, text and typography. Elements to consider, also written here, white space, fonts, and alignment. Together with colors, define a hierarchy of visibility and attention, and the visual hierarchy you are creating should match the relative importance of the information content. So look at this example. Well, it's in Italian, but look at this example. It doesn't matter the text. This is for paying 20 euros to the Comune di Gallarate for a certificate. The second one is better than the first one. Why? Yes. Why? Of course, it's better hierarchy and colors, but why they're better? Yes.
The main button, which is the most important thing, is to confirm and pay is in blue.
Yep.
The rest of the colors are in gray, so your eyes look at the important thing, and also it is a payment page, so confermi il pagamento.
Yeah, the title is bigger than the others. Instead here, the biggest thing is the name and the name of the municipality. So same content, just different hierarchy. And also here it's pretty messy. This number there all together. So how to choose fonts? Again, rule of thumb. In an application, try to limit yourself to 2 typefaces. One for the headings and one for the body of text. If you have a web application with 5 typefaces different, that's probably a sign that something should be reconsidered. Try to limit to 2 of them. Just in case if you don't know, there are sources of free web fonts. One is Google Fonts, and the other one is this Bunny Fonts, which is a GDPR-friendly alternative, while the Google one are not always GDPR valid. In creating and choosing fonts, keep in mind that readability always wins. Readability means, is it comfortable to read the long passages with this text? So it's something that should be comfortable in reading a lot of things. Legibility instead is, can we distinguish between one character and the other? So the font choice. So again, 2 typeface, and try to keep in mind that readability for the body text is what matters most. The headers could be something better, but it should be legible at least. Optimal light length 4575 character, which is roughly 600-700 pixel at 16 pixel body text. White space are important. Again, so try to use line height. Line height improves readability. And always use, again, consistency. Use a consistent space scale. So if 2 elements are separated by 4 pixels, all the elements should be separated by 4 pixels or multiple of 4 pixels. Just don't do random things. Again, consistency. As we've seen before, the way text is arranged sends signal even before you can read the entire text. If you have things that are recognizable, that helps. The navigation, the header, the main content, the sidebar, the footer, etc. Convention, the hamburger menu, help user orient themselves. So again, exploiting familiarity. And if you want to deviate from convention, if you want to deviate for the consistency that you have in your application, you can do it, but for strategic reasons. Like you want to highlight that something is really different in that page, so you are not consistent in that moment because you want to highlight that something is not consistent. And let me show you an example actually of this, because I think that's nice. Let me go here, for instance, in the settings. Okay, so how the settings of GitHub are done in the main body. Let's look here. How they're done? Are they structured? And which color do they use? What's in this page? Which pattern you see in this page? Boxes, gray boxes with things in it, and a title. And it's consistent, always title, boxes, except. So in this case, they break consistency, and the other pages of the settings are done the same way. It's all consistent, except when you want to highlight that something dangerous can happen. So in this case, they break the consistency. It was a title with a rectangle, it was gray, and here the title is there, but it's red, and the rectangle is red, and also the buttons are different, are not gray anymore, but they become red. They break the consistency visually to highlight that there something is different from term of service, from a GitHub development program, from the link, from the product message, etc., and everything else. Okay? So that's a way to break consistency in a smart way, to highlight that things are different here for a reason. And you have to catch your attention here, because everything else instead is similar and close to itself. So again, strategic reason to deviate from convention and from consistency that you want to have. And here there is another example of text and layout for meaning. This is for buying a house. Same content, same information, just two different ways to present them. Again, if you look at this, which is the one that gives you the information you are most interested in at the first glance? The one on the right, I mean this.
Yes, on your right.
Which are the information that you are interested in, for which this is good?
The price.
The price.
And also there is an image for the bedrooms and bathrooms, which is bigger or
Yes. And also, instead of writing that is a 2012 house, it's 5 years old, when this picture was taken, was 5 years old, which actually more helpful than say, okay, now we are in this year and then we have to do the calculation, don't make me think. Here say, okay, this is the number you are interested in. How old is the house? You want the number, you're not interested, it was building in 1968, okay, but how old is it? Etc., etc. And then yes, there are also that information, but it's smaller, like the address, the pictures, the picture remains there, etc. And there's also a picture of the Stephanie Hefner, just in case you want to visit the house and you see the person, so you can already recognize the person in the real world if you are interested in knowing more and you arrange an in-person meeting. About recognizable, what page is this? Google search page. There is no text. How do you understand that? It's just written Google, but because the layout is familiar. Okay? Again, convention help recognizing the structures. In every website, you can recognize specific structure of the website so that you can, and all of these are things you can use in your, you should use in your web applications, in your systems, to helping people navigate and recognize what they're going to do. Let me end today with these principles very quickly. There are a series of principles, Gestalt principles, that are law from psychology from 1920, and say how people, they're not related to web design, web development, just in general about people, and how humans typically see object by grouping similar elements, recognizing patterns, and simplifying complex image. And you can use these to trick perspective, and also they inform the best practice design standard. So these are the key principles. There are many more than these, 7. These are the key principles used in web design. One is proximity. We group elements that belongs together, closer each another. We link elements that share color, shape, and pattern together. We follow lines and curves in an interface. We automatically fill in the gaps to perceive a complete shape. Common region, we group elements inside the same closed region. Foreground element catches the eye first with respect to background elements. And the focal point is a standout elements that draw attention first. So let's see a few examples. Again, here there are some point in practice, like for focal point, if you have a single eye contrast button, for the next step that will draw attention. Like the danger zone in GitHub, that will draw attention because it's very different from before. And here there are other examples. So here an example of similarity. Let me see. Where is the similarity in these 2 pages? Which are the elements? Let me bring the definition back. We link elements that share color, shape, of pattern. Which are the similar elements here?
The same author is in green in both parts of the GitHub one.
Yes, and let's look at this other one, which is richer than that one. What is the similarity here? Which are the similar elements in this page?
There's 3 articles next to
Okay, so smaller news are together and they are formatted in image plus text behind. Similar element located together in the same section, by the way. Then the other similarity. There are at least other 1, 2, 3 things.
There is also bigger news with text to the side.
Yes, the bigger news has text on the side and is replicated identically.
And also in the column.
Yes, the sidebar has the same content, is a multimedia content, and in blue, which is separate, etc. And then there is also this line here with these 3 elements with a logo and then the title. Again, similarity. They are grouped together. Proximity, elements are close one another. Continuity. What we expect if we press this arrow. Elements flow a line that we have. So these are elements from Amazon. They're on a line. If you press this arrow, what we expect to happen?
It shows another sequence of the same.
It shows another sequence of, so other 5 items. How do you know?
Experience.
No, this is not experience, actually. This is psychological. We expect this to be, because that's how we see the world, that's how we experience the world, not just in the web, but just in general. And here, if there is something else, what we expect here to be? Step 4. Because it's reasonable that after step 1, 2, 3, that we have step 4. So again, this is something that we recognize like this, and we can also use to either break behaviors or highlight behaviors. So if we can make this arrow not showing 5 elements but just 1, people will notice more than not 5 elements, because that's not what they expect to. So they break consistency in a way, one kind of consistency, okay? Which is the focal points of these two images. Well, here is easy. Which is the focal point here? The focal point is the first things you will notice that stand out from the image. In this one,
The big description and the two buttons.
one thing could be the focal point. You mentioned 2 things.
The description.
It's actually the button, because it's red and nothing else is red here. Also, the second things you notice probably is the big text. Here, which is the focal point, which is the thing that Instacart wants you to press or to do.
Find stores.
Find stores, the button. And then probably the second things you notice is the title, which is in the same color and it's big enough. So focal points help to drive the attention on something particular, something that the designer of Twilio and Instacart want you to do. And then you can read the entire page and do other things, but that's the thing they want you to put your attention on, okay? Okay, we stop here for today. We will continue tomorrow with the other, talking about alignment and then layout and colors, etc. For the first hour, and then the second hour of tomorrow, it's instead a supervised work group on your midterm assignment. Okay? So we have done. Have a nice rest of the day.